Hello and welcome to November's book review. This month I'm looking at a book that you may have read already. It's incredibly well known, famous book. At this point I think there's over 12 million copies in print worldwide, and it is indeed Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. If you haven't read this book, you need to read this book. It is truly transformational. It's a book that is quoted so often. I use it myself in talks and workshops as a source of endless inspiration. In this video, I'm going to take away 3 of the top insights to my mind that I think will really help you to bring into your life and to really hold dear in terms of learning from one man's heart-wrenching experience. So in case you don't know, Viktor E. Frankl was a Jewish psychiatrist who was imprisoned in Auschwitz for 3 years. He managed to survive the horrific camp life that he was exposed to. However, his family were completely wiped out, like so many others at that time. Incredibly heartbreaking. What is so powerful about this book is that it comes directly from Frankl's heart. He writes about his experience in the camp. It's not an easy read. How could it be when the subject matter is incredibly so sad? One of the most horrific acts of humankind that took place in the Nazi camps. Having been to Auschwitz myself, I can absolutely verify how awful it appeared to be in terms of just the atmosphere there. However, what I want to do, and what Frankl does, really, not me. Frankl is the one that has created something from such horrific circumstances. And he has created a piece of work that has literally uplifted the hearts and souls of so many people. And it comes from the ashes, literally from one of the worst situations a human being could ever be exposed to. So the 3 things that I want to highlight are, the first is man's ability to choose his response in terms of free will over our circumstances. One of the most famous quotes that Frankl has, and I often use it myself, is that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our power and our freedom. So when he looks at this question of, no matter how awful the circumstances are we as human beings, do we have the opportunity to choose how we're going to respond? And he says that we can answer these questions from experience as well as on principle. The experiences of camp life show that man does have a choice of action. There were enough examples, often of a heroic nature, which proved that apathy could be overcome and irritability suppressed. Man can preserve a vestige of spiritual freedom, of independence of mind, even in such terrible conditions of psychic and physical stress. So that's really sort of highlights this idea of coming back to, again, what I practice myself to the best of my ability and what I work with my clients, my books, etc. And that is this awareness of that microsecond sometimes. It's such a tiny little second, a moment between stimulus and response, and choosing how you are actually going to respond to a situation rather than that more automatic reaction that often leaves both you feeling depleted and the people around you. The second learning I want to share with you that I think is really helpful is to do with human kindness. And basically, it is the sense of how really, even again in these awful circumstances, that people were able to show kindness to each other. That even when things were going so horribly wrong, there was a sense of those little moments of being able to reach out. He says here, human kindness can be found in all groups, even those which as a whole it would be easy to condemn. And this is the real nugget. The boundaries between groups overlapped, and we must not try to simplify matters by saying that these men were angels and that those were devils. So in other words, he's talking about the Nazis, the prison guards, and the prisoners themselves. Certainly, he says, it was a considerable achievement for a guard or foreman to be kind to the prisoners in spite of all the camp's influences. And on the other hand, the baseness of a prisoner who treated his own companions badly was exceptionally contemptible. This is really something that strikes at the heart of non-judgment in terms of really staying away from them and us, and how kindness is something that is universal, even again when we have circumstances that are as horrific. And I keep using that word because it's the only one that seems to come to mind of how it must have been in the camps. And that if a man such as Viktor Frankl has been there or had been there and was able to come out and from that experience and from the horrific, there you go again, from the incredibly difficult, horrible things that must have happened to him, he was able to see the kindness, then that is something that we can all learn from in terms of a universal altruistic sense of kindness towards all beings. The third thing is to do with the title of the book, and that is about man's search for meaning. And when we know our purpose, which is something again that is at the heart of my work in terms of helping people to really overcome their own insecurities, fears, anxieties and insecurities, is to look at what is your will to meaning, what is your purpose, and knowing that in your life is integral to your ability to flourish, to be happy. It's also at the roots of positive psychology. So I'll just read you one final little bit here. He says, man's search for meaning is the primary motivation in his life and not a secondary rationalization of instinctual drives. This meaning is unique and specific in that it must and can be fulfilled by him alone. Only then does it achieve a significance which will satisfy his own will to meaning. So again, we see something very important there. It's like every time that's what I started this video by saying, it's like every time I read it, even those quotes that I know well, I keep finding more. And that is, I think, at the heart of an incredible piece of work. So what is meaningful to me, for example, I think this is what Frankl is really alluding to. What I find meaning in life could be something completely different for you. And spending time getting to know what your purpose is and your own meaning is something that you owe to yourself, that you deserve that, because that is what is the driving force to keep your spirits high, especially in difficult times, but in all times, and how that has a really knock-on effect in terms of the energy that you create and you give to the world. So those are the three top things: our ability to choose our response and not to react, our ability to be kind, no matter what, no matter even when people are being unkind to us, is that we can dig that little bit deeper and find the kindness in ourselves. And thirdly, find your meaning. So thanks for watching. Please do share this video with anyone that you feel it would benefit from. Let me know as well in the comments below if you've read the book and any of the insights that you've taken from it. I'd really, really love to hear. Talk to you soon and lots of love.